In this video, we're going to be talking about what to expect and how to submit assignments using CtrinketIO. We'll be using CtrinketIO to make it easy for you to code your Python assignments and also submit questions and submit final Python code to your instructor. When you first log into Trinket, you'll see a list of your courses. For you, this will likely include just this course, Computer Science 284. Click on that course, and then you can join the course. Whenever you get to the homepage for the course, you'll see a series of assignments over on the left-hand side. Those are the different Python assignments that we'll be working on this semester. First thing you want to do is navigate to the assignment for the week based on the topic. So the very first Python lab is sets, relations, and tuples. You should navigate to that area. Underneath the heading, you'll see the assignment, Python Lab 1. It has a little clock next to it, which is what tells you that it's an assignment that needs to be submitted. You can click on that to begin the lab. The lab will appear over here on the right-hand side of the screen. In the lab, it'll show you the learning goals for the lab. In other words, why are we working on this particular assignment? And then it'll show you the assignment itself. It links to the PDF version of the document that's also posted on Canvas. Some people like to have both a Canvas tab and the Trinket window open at the same time. Other people might want to read the assignment just here in the Trinket window in the browser. Either one's completely fine. That's your personal preference. There's also a link to the Word document version if you want to download that and use it instead. And you can download the PDF as well. So when you start the lab, you want to read through the assignment itself. It has the individual steps that you're supposed to undergo and also kind of guided instructions for how to complete the lab. In this first Python assignment, you're supposed to complete a Python tutorial, and that's outside of the CtrinketIO area. So you want to go to learnpython.org, and then you'll be completing a series of activities on that particular website. There's nothing to turn in from that part. It's simply for your benefit so that if you're a little bit rusty on Python or if you've never used Python before, you see some of the basics about how to use variables, do input and output, create loops, and conditional statements. When you're ready, move on to part 2 of the lab. That's the part that you'll be completing from scratch. And or I shouldn't say from scratch, but that's the part where you'll be building some code. It asks you to create a Python file in the CtrinketIO environment. And to do that, you can keep scrolling down here to the bottom of the page. After it lists what you're supposed to turn in and how this assignment will be evaluated, you'll see a little window where you can actually enter your Python code. For Lab 1, we're trying to get our feet wet with Python, and so a lot of the code has been provided for you. First thing you should do is read through the provided code. And you can see that the Python editor window here automatically highlights text just like you would be used to in a regular IDE. Comments in Python start with the hashtag and they're color-coded green. Reserved words are color-coded this kind of pinkish purple. Numeric constants are a bluish purple, and then if you keep scrolling, I think there's some string constants, and those are color-coded as red. So you want to start at the top and just read through the program, look at all of the comments that are provided, and that'll give you a feel for how Python code is organized and also what the existing code does. Once you've read through the existing code, then you should follow the instructions in the lab to complete the portion of the code that you're supposed to add. In this case, it's this area where it says add your code below your line to complete the program. So I've already inserted some statements here, things that I thought might be a good idea to complete this code, but I think I'm a little bit off track. And so if I have a question on this and I want to submit it to my instructor, I can say that I want to submit my code or update my instruction, and that will send a new version to my instructor. If you're sending something and you know it's not working correctly, be sure to type in some comments. So be specific about what's not working. If it's a syntax error and you don't know what it means, or if you think there's a logical problem or something like that, be sure to include that in the comments so that I can give you good feedback. Then in order to submit your assignment or submit a question, you just click update your submission. It'll give you a new version of that. If you're looking for feedback about a item that you submitted as a question or as a final version of the assignment, you can click on these little teacher feedback buttons. That means your instructor has responded to you and provided some extra feedback about a particular submission. So it'll show you what you submitted to them, what you asked, and then also what feedback your instructor gave you. All of that's stored directly in the browser environment. You can access that at any time. For most of the labs, there's two things to turn in. Again, there's nothing to turn in for part 1 of the first Python lab, but it does ask you to turn in your code for part 2, and you'll do that directly in the Trinket environment by submitting your code. And then it also asks you to answer some questions, either in a lab document or as a text file or a PDF, whatever your preference is, and then upload that document to Canvas. So be sure to go to the separate lab assignment on Canvas to submit your questions. If you submit both, then you'll get full credit for the lab as long as they show good effort, even if the information included in your responses to the questions or the lab isn't 100% perfect. If you know that you had problems with the Python assignment, do keep following up until you get your issues resolved so that you can feel confident and ready to tackle the next lab. If you have questions about how to use CtrinketIO at any time, please contact Dr. Anna Welch. She would be happy to answer questions about how to use the environment and submit assignments using CtrinketIO.